O Diyos aming Ama, ang lahat ng nilalang ay marapat na sumamba sa iyo. Higit sa iyong mga biyaya, sinasamba ka namin dahil ikaw ay ikaw. Lumalapit kami sa iyo, dakilang tagapaglikha, nagsusumamo at humihingi ng kapatawaran. Kami ay nagkulang at nagkasala. Patawarin mo kami sa katigasan ng aming mga puso. Turuan mo kami at dalhin sa inyong kalooban. Tingnan mo kami ng may awa at kahabagan. Hilumin mo po ang aming bayan, ang aming mga mahal sa buhay, kaibigan, kapitbahay, karatig bayan, ganon din ang aming mga kaaway sa pandemyang kinahaharap namin sa COVID-19. Isama niyo na rin ang mga may sakit sa iba't ibang karamdaman. Panginoon, balutin mo kami ng inyong kaluwalhatian. Itago mo kami sa lilim ng inyong mga pakpak laban sa anumang kapahamakan o wala sa oras na kamatayan. Kristo, ang tinapay ng buhay, alalahanin niyo po ang mga namumuno sa aming bansa, ang mga ilaw at haligi ng bawat tahanan, at mga kawani na nagtatanggol sa aming seguridad at mga frontliners. Batid mo, Panginoon, ang mga dinaraanan at bawat ganap sa aming buhay. Espiritong Banal, aming tanggulan at gabay, imulat ang aming mga mata at ipakita si Jesus ang Panginoon at tagapagligtas, ang nag-iisang katotohanan at tanging daan tungo sa Ama. Wala nang iba. Purihin ka, O aming Diyos. Ang presensya mo ay tunay na biyaya ng aming buhay. Ito ang aming samot panalangin sa pangalan ni Jesus, Kordero ng Diyos na nag-aalis ng kasalanan ng mundo. Amen.
Reaching out to Filipinos worldwide, the now of digital entertainment with studios in Manila, Bacolod, Hong Kong, and Los Angeles, California. This is V81 Radio Worldwide.
V81 Radio, V81 Radio. Ito ang radio mo, ito ang radio ko. V81 Radio, V81 Radio. Dahil mahal namin kayo. V81 Radio, V81 Radio. Para sa inyo ito, V81 Radio.
The views and opinions expressed by the host do not necessarily state or reflect those of the company and its management. Furthermore, the views and opinions of the guests do not reflect those of the host, the show, this station, the management, and the network. Samahan na natin si Rachele Bonus dito sa KPI, Kaunlaran at Pagbabago para sa inyo. Dito lang yan sa V81 Radio Worldwide.
Hello everybody! Good afternoon sa ating lahat dito sa Pilipinas and for those, the followers ng V81 worldwide in other countries. Hello! Continue po tayo na mag-ingat. Magandang umaga. Siguro kung nasan man kayo, kung nasa California kayo, yes, magandang umaga. At kung meron kayong insomnia, magandang gabi pa yata because what? 13 hours. So magandang gabi pa. So, and thank you for following. We have our studios in California, in Bacolod, in Manila, Hong Kong, we have our followers there, UAE, Taiwan, and hello ho sa ating lahat. Please, the pandemic's still here. Although good news, GCQ na tayo. So, it means pwede na tayong lumabas ng classroom ng konti. And, but still, make sure na yung ating protocols, health protocols, wear your mask. Mag-isa lang ho ako dito. At ang ating face shield, wash your hands. Yan ho yung pinakamagandang mga solution, preventive solutions, and social distancing. Because kung nahihirapan tayong huminga dahil may mask, yun yung kinocomplain ng iba eh. Mas mahirap pong magkasakit ng COVID. And my friend who was even mild, ang kanyang naging simptomas, hindi siya na ICU because that would be severe, obviously. Pero sabi niya, I wouldn't wish this on anybody kasi yung long-term effect, mas hiningal na siya. So we wouldn't want that. And another good news, nandito na yung vaccine. I've been seeing people posting na naka-second dose na sila. But still, it doesn't mean that we're free from getting the virus. It just means that yung severity o yung magiging malala, hindi na ganun kagrabe. Right now, we are, as we have committed and always announced, we're very thankful na progress is still happening. Yung ating mga mayor na nakakausap natin and even the councilors, the barangay officials, sila yung naging frontliners. And did you know also, as we have featured other government agencies, like we've had Socialized Housing Financing Corporation, National Housing Authority. Why are they special mention now? Because ang dami talagang nagtanong. Up until now, nakakakuha kami ng mga private messages, giving their numbers na paki-prioritize or asking how this works out, kung paano makapag-apply para makapag-avail ng mga ganong benepisyo. Whether you have to pay a little amount, which is through the Socialized Housing Financing Corporation na kailangan Homeowners Association. At ang sabi ni Mayor 𝗧𝗃𝗲𝗶𝗃 when she was with us ng Tabaco City na you can use your LGU to be the mobilizer. Meaning, you can approach them. If you have a Homeowners Association na register nyo na, it's duly registered with the SEC, and I think you have to register also with 𝗔𝘃𝗲𝗶𝗃 or the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development. Human Settlements and Urban Development. So, yan ang ating guest. Assistant Secretary ng 𝗔𝘃𝗲𝗶𝗃. And he will tell us all about yung goal ng ating gobyerno na makapag-provide ng 80% of Filipinos to have their own homes. So, paano ba mangyayari yon? 80% ba? We're 107 million na ba? And we're going to be, in no time, 110 million in a couple of years. Does that mean 80 million of us ay tutulungan ng gobyerno? So, paano natin malalaman? Siyempre naman, hindi naman lahat tayo matutulungan. Hirap nga tayo sa vaccine and sa hospitalization, di ba? But we will find out kung kayo or yung kamag-anak nyo ay pwedeng maging ma-qualify doon. They have been working closely with LGUs. Let us see. Meron tayong video from their FB page. Kung sino-sinong LGU so far, yung strongly they have been working with. And Miguel will show us that video when they...
With the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, the need for resilient and sustainable shelter has been highlighted more than ever. And for us housing officials, as part of our guiding principle, we consider shelter as a right of every Filipino family.
In February 1994, San Carlos City started with the home lot program called Lote para sa Mahirap to cater to squatters in the Poblacion area. So far, 824 lots with 54 square meters each were already served to relocated family, and that is continuing now.
Those who live along danger zones are among our most underprivileged citizens, which is the reason why we introduced the concept of rental housing among our menu of housing options. Our target is to provide housing for about 10,000 informal settler families.
We established 33 relocation sites in partnership with the national agencies. And at the same time, we have a total of 5,085 households who became a beneficiary of this project.
Is it going to be more difficult to build now after the pandemic?
Hindi naman po kasi sa Carlos City, we're not providing them housing. It's a program of the government which was implemented in 1998. Lote lang po. Local government po ang naglaland banking, local government po ang nagde-develop. Binibigay po ina-award po natin sa informal settlers.
How do you prevent illegal settlers from returning to their previous place of residence?
Yung ginawa namin sa mga informal settlers currently occupying on danger areas is naghanap kami ng ibang area for relocation. So 1,200 na yung na-relocate namin, tapos we collaborated with the DPWH for possible project for mitigating measures.
In the past, the philosophy was it should be those who can afford housing in the city that should stay in the city. I find that kasi very discriminatory. Through in-city housing, rental housing is something I feel is very affordable to everyone. Yung mga naghahanap buhay dito, kahit mahirap na mahirap, may pagkakataon silang tumira sa lungsod na kinagisnan nila.
What does your city need? What would you like to see more from the national government to really address the housing backlog in the Philippines?
I always say that if you make a dent in Quezon City, you've already made a dent in the country given the size of our informal settler population. At ang isa sa hinihingi ko sa national government, sana yung balanced housing compliance. The national government plays a very big role. Even if we have an ordinance, we are not the ones who oversee that this is complied with.
We have some partnership or other stakeholder partners can assist us in terms of funding our relocation sites. Well, I think it would be best that we can do more to help these informal settlers.
Dapat the national government, tingnan nila yung San Carlos City or maliliit na city who are really serious in addressing the problem of the informal settlers. Sana po maging model ito at mabigyan ng pansin ng national government para, well, of course, kung tutulungan nila kami, mas mabuti po.
And that's just a sample ng some of the LGUs that the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development are helping. But if you go to their FB page, they're very transparent. Pinapakita nila naman kung sino pa yung ibang mga localities na tinutulungan nila. And we will be featuring them later on with the help of our government, of our public servants. So I'd always mention na parang instead of complaining, dapat makita natin we have to be more informed of what's happening around us because things are happening. And I'd always say that kahit na medyo nega yung nakikita natin sa news, sa mga balita, actually we have very good government representatives who are public servants either in the LGUs or in the national agencies that I've really worked closely with and who are brilliant and who really know their craft. Katulad ng ating guest ngayon ay si Assistant Secretary Avelino Tolentino III or as ASEC Ave. Para siyang si Iron Man not only is he a lawyer, well, not only is he a lawyer, para rin siyang si Iron Man because galing siya sa MIT or the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. At ang kinaganda ngayon ay meron na tayong actual urban planner na who will be looking into the development of the localities of the cities. Kasi kung mapapansin nyo, particularly mga kababayan natin na nasa ibang bansa, merong zoning, hindi sama-sama yung, for example, a particular zone, hindi sama-sama yung low rise, medium rise, and high rise. But here, it's all together, pati yung paglagay ng poste, supposedly, and it's part of urban development from what I've read, but we'll know more about it kung ano nga ba ang ginagawa ng Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development. If we could please call on our Assistant Secretary, Attorney Ave Tolentino III, please. Hi, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Ma'am Rachele. Good afternoon to your viewers.
Yes, thank you very much. Pero wag mo na ako imam, sir, ASEC. So, pero,
Actually,
anyway.
Class pan pala. Same school pala kami ni Iron Man. I didn't know that.
Nino?
Ni Iron Man. Same school pala kami ni Iron Man. Hindi ko
Oh,
alam.
yes. See? Okay. So, kasi nagulat ako. Well, actually, I would hear it in the news na nag-merge. Just like last week, ang guest was Still Guarantee, which is also a merger of two agencies. Ito, ano naman yung naging reason ng DSUD na i-merge yung dalawang agents? Would you call them agencies?
All right. So, a few years back, we had what we call the Housing and Urban Development Coordinating Council and the Housing and Land Use Regulatory Board. Primarily, yung HUDCC, doon po ako nagtrabaho ng matagal, halos isang dekada po ako doon. Yan po ang ating Housing Policy Agency. On the other hand, the HLURB was in charge of regulatory and planning as well as the management of homeowners associations. And also, the HLURB performed quasi-judicial functions. So, ayun, yan po ang bumuo. The combination of those two agencies, yan po ang bumuo ng Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development. Naipahiwalay lang po the quasi-adjudication powers. Napunta po yun sa HSAC. Pero to your question, bakit yung pinagsama, no?
Yes.
If you go to other jurisdictions, you really have full-fledged departments facing the housing challenges, urban development challenges of their countries. So if you go around, you'll have a Department of Housing and Urban Development. In some places, you have a Ministry of Public Works and Housing. Yun ang magkatuwang. So dito po, oddly enough, ang pangalan ng agency, Housing and Urban Development Coordinating Council. But if you go through the nitty-gritty of the organization, there isn't a bureau or a unit or a division in charge of crafting urban development policies. And that was the constant knock. Bakit HUDCC, urban development is in the name of the organization, but you really aren't engaged in the urban development policies. So, yan ang paulit-ulit nire-raise World Bank studies, even during the Housing Summit hosted by Congress, they underscored the fact that we need good urban planning. And the last few years, the last decade maybe, we've seen how important it is for us to guide our urban growth. You know, it's very important for us to take the lead in managing our urban growth, because otherwise, darating yung urban growth mo and your cities are not ready. And if it's not ready, you will have congestion, you will have pollution, you will have a situation wherein your cities are beyond their carrying capacity. So sabi, sige, let's put it together and let's highlight the need for urban planning. So sa tingin ko, doon po ang pinanggalingan po talaga. That's why the senators, congressmen, the last 2 years, they supported the passage of the law creating the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development. Feb 14 po kami, ma'am, pinanganak. Bali, 2 years, Feb 14.
Yes, Feb 14. Oh, but then when I was reading, yung IRR, kasi although nandiyan na yung ahensya, pero yung IRR, medyo fresh pa, syempre, kasi nauuna yung batas and then the IRR. So, operationally, parang wala pa rin 2 years. Tama ba?
Operationally, parang wala pa rin 2 years because we've been in transition. We've been in transition because it's not that easy to transfer, transfer employees. There was the transfer of employees. There are more functions to be performed now. Also, the central office physically transferred to this one building. We now have a new building here near the elliptical.
Yes, maganda.
In Quezon City, dito sa elliptical area dito. Meron na kami building which we shared with the Human Settlements and Education Commission. So ayun po, tapos nag-pandemic pa ko.
Yes.
Our people, so but now the last few months siguro nakita nyo there's been a lot of activities.
Yes, very active din ang social media page and also in hiring because I know that's a key performance indicator, the KPI, ang hiring kasi paano kayo magiging efficient if you don't have the proper manpower. Now, ang nakalagay nung sa DSUD na kailangan ay successful innovative programs. You have to provide that and sustainable, resilient, and affordable housing in well-planned communities. So, ano ba ang well-planned community? Kasi medyo mahirap dito dahil, for example, picking up from what you said na hindi overcapacitated na ang isang LGU. Perfect example is Quezon City. It seems like a nice big city. It contains more than imagine if we're 107 million na ba tayo ngayon, they have already 10 million of the population. That's what? 10%, almost 10%. And they do have a lot of informal settlers. And firsthand, witness ako, merong nakapila sa BDO. Tapos tinanong ko, bakit may pila? May pila ba ako? Tapos sabi niya, ay hindi ho, kumukuha kami ng resettlement. Parang may 10,000 pesos to resettle. Tapos, tinatanong ko yung guard, naghihintay ako. Tapos sabi niya, ay nako, professional na yung mga yan. Lagi silang bumabalik. Kasi magre-resettle sila, kukunin nila yung 10,000. Racket. Babalik sila later on. Tapos makakuha ulit sila ng 10,000 pag magre-resettle na. So what is a well-planned community? Kasi if not, babalik lang sila if it's not well-planned.
That's a very good question. What is a well-planned community? Mahirap kasi what it means to have a well-planned community is something that evolves through time and it depends on your beneficiaries. But for me, personally, when you say it's a well-planned community, it has to be a community that works for the people. Meaning it's a city that is structured in a way that allows you to become a better employee, a better worker, a better member of the community, even a better member of your family, or even a better member of yourself. Meaning to say, when we talk about well-planned communities, it is something that must improve your quality of life. How to determine that? I will have to give it to the residents of that city. But from a very technical point of view, when we look at well-planned communities, ito yung merong mga pulisiyang nakalatag sa land use, no? How do we shape our built environment, di ba? Merong nakalatag na programa sa infrastructure. How do you construct infrastructure so that it is well ahead of population growth? Kasi po nangyayari, umangat na po yung population at saka mo ilalatag infrastructure and you see how difficult that is. You want infrastructure to be there, to be ready, so that when population comes, your city is ready, the services are ready, transportation is ready, water is ready, sanitation is ready. So, yun po ang nakikita naming well-planned community. Yung aming pong programa, makikita nyo, balay, no? Building adequate, livable, affordable, and inclusive communities. So, yun po ang aming tinitignan. It has to be adequate, so tama ang standards. It has to be livable. Ibig sabihin, malapit ka dun sa services. Ano po ba ang kailangan na isang mamamayan? Malapit sa place of worship siguro, malapit po sa tindahan, malapit sa pamilya, malapit sa ospital, malapit sa paaralan. Affordable, kaya pong bayaran, at inclusive. So finally, doon po sa binanggit nyo kanina na may iniaalis, binabalik. Alam mo ma'am, when I started out as a director at the HEBCC, that was primarily the approach to informal settlers, which was to resettle them outside the city. Now, that debate has changed, and cities are now working towards a preference of on-site, in-city, near city, before they actually go off city. And the challenge is, para po hindi bumalik po dun sa pinag-iskwatan na danger area, dun po sa pinagtayuan na danger area, the challenge is, we bring them to a better place. If we bring them to a better place, they will not return to those danger areas. Sige po, ma'am.
So, talagang you work hand in hand with the LGU. You know what caught my attention there was when you used the in-city term. Kasi yun din ang sinabi ng Quezon City Consi Hero when he was a guest 2 years ago na, you know, hindi na natin pwede gawin yung ilalayo natin sila, tapos babalik sila. Kasi ang sabi nila, which is true, nakita ko rin sa Baseco, sa Tondo, Manila, kaya kami bumabalik dito, hindi dahil gusto namin tong pagiging squatter, but it's because naglalakad kami papuntang trabaho sa Divisoria. So now that you mentioned, yes, to be a better citizen, because you have to work as a better citizen. So now that you mentioned in city, parang nagkakaroon talaga, makikita mo na talagang the government is actually the national government is actually working with the local government, which to a regular citizen like us, it may not be apparent because we don't know the workings behind the headlines. Kasi whatever the headline is, COVID. Kung may na-massacre, yun yung headline. But we don't know. I mean, you know, pag mayroon nagkakaroon ng massacre in the South, or nagkakaroon ng riding in tandem, na yun yung mga headline. But this is actually happening even during the pandemic. That's what we are saying. So, when you mention the LGUs, you have to guide them on what urban development is. Does that mean now, moving forward, they have to submit whatever kind of development? For example, they're building whether an 𝗧𝗃𝗲𝗃, export processing zone, or they're building subdivisions. Does that mean they have to go through human settlements and urban development?
In relation to the urban development of the LGUs, two things. No? First is that yung mga highly urbanized cities natin, independent component cities natin, and Metro Manila cities, they submit for approval at the DHSUD their comprehensive land use plan. So how they will shape their built environment in the next 10 years, they have to submit it here. Now, if you're not one of them, if you're one of the cities, municipalities that have to go through the Provincial Land Use Committee instead for approval of your CLUP, what do? We provide technical assistance. No? So our planners here, our engineers here, architects here, we partner with your locality, help you put together your CLUP and bring in cutting-edge technology, what is being used abroad, best practices to your locality. So by doing that, medyo na-shape po natin yung urban development. Now, another one po is we also provide technical assistance for our LGUs in putting together their local shelter plan. Doon po sa local shelter plan, we identify what lands are available. How many people are we expecting to be living at city in the next few years? What resources are available at the national level? What resources can you leverage at the local level for you to be able to fund the housing need of your city? So tama po kayo. we are here at the national level to guide, to provide expertise, because as you understand, some LGUs fare better than the others.
Yes.
So we want to bridge that gap. We want everyone to have access to good urban planning policies, good shelter policies. But at the same time, we do recognize the fact that the implementers, lalo na po, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Mandana schooling. No?
No.
In the next few years, the LGUs will get a lion's share of our taxes. And that's the chance for them to really be able to deliver services which will include yung pong mga local housing initiatives po nila.
Oh, and what's the timeline for that?
Itong Mandanas, I think it will come in tranches, but it will start by 2022. So ang mangyayari, the focus for us is the bigger cities that can afford is to give them the technical assistance, expertise. While on the other hand, the smaller ones, yun yung medyo mas direct ang participation namin for housing.
And this kind of initiative and vision will stay on kasi alam naman natin with the election coming up and kung iba na ang kunyari uupo baka iba yung kanilang vision napuputol yung continuity ng projects. Is this something that will be affected or is it something that you have to adhere to as a department?
Well, I hope not because the secretary, together with our sector partners, we're trying to put together a sector plan, a 20-year sector plan for the public housing and urban development sector. It's something that we believe should stay regardless of administration. So yun po, ilalatag po namin yan, aprobahan po namin yan bago po magtapos itong administrasyon na to. Ito po i-roll out po natin po ito sa lahat ng ating mga partner agencies, lalo-lalo na po ang LGUs na nakikita natin siyang mangunguna sa pagtulak ng pabahay, pagtulak po ng urban development sa kanilang mga lugar.
Yeah, that's so true. Parang sila talaga yung on the ground because they're nearer the people. And now, yung nakikita natin, what are the major concerns na, kunyari, this just struck me now as you were saying kanina na parang hindi na sila bumalik sa danger zone, yung mga informal settlers. Minsan naman, hindi naman informal settlers. For example, si Provident ng Marikina, and I had a cousin who lived there. Konting ulan, talagang they're watching the alert level of how the river will hit that red. There is a red alert there, and it doesn't even have to be a typhoon. Is that something that can be planned moving forward? Hindi sila informal settlers; they actually own their homes. How do we address this?
That's a very specific case, and I'm sure those in that locality, in their government unit, they have a better answer. But that's a case again where the increase of people probably exceeded the carrying capacity or probably exceeded the infrastructure of that area. So mangyayari po, remedyo, magkakaroon ka ng flood management construction, you have some engineering interventions, you also have some social interventions, so you try to evacuate. But in the department, what we're trying to do right now, through our land use plannings and through the urban development plans that we are trying to lay out, is for the cities, lalo na po expansion areas po nila, no? So, kunwari, ito ang sentro ng city, you will see the population. We don't just give them technical assistance for that specific area. We give them technical assistance so that they can plan where their expansion will go. So para po, as they expand, doon na po nakalatag na po yung infrastructure. So mas madali pong harapin yung pagbaha, mas madali pong harapin yung traffic, mas madali pong harapin yung tubig, yung basura, yung drainage. Baka po nakahanda na po kung saan mapupunta ang growth by preparing your expansion area. So may mga ganun pong polisiyan, amin pong nilalatag at amin pong binibigay po, kinakapacitate sa ating mga LGUs.
Yeah, and that's for me, that's very exciting. That's very promising. Because I witnessed that living abroad, na hindi basta-basta na parang, okay, magtayo tayo ng mall dito, tapos ang traffic na, everything. Even the height of the malls, they have, and against the parking lot, it's all well planned. And it's so different here, and I'm so glad to hear that nagkakaroon tayo ng ganong forward thinking, pati yung basura. Because that's important. Kaya tayo nagkakaroon ng open dump site. Because kung hindi natin na plano. And the traffic. That's so true. Like for example, di ba nagkaroon ng surge in building of houses in the south. So ngayon, yung dating napaka-smooth sailing na South Expressway, talaga naman, wagas ang traffic, parang EDSA. So, now that you mentioned na, you know, in terms, you have forward planning, kung saan, kung paano mag-expand. In terms of LGUs, are there priority LGUs? Because ang plano ng DSUD is to provide 80% of Filipinos to have their own homes. Di kung 100 million tayo, 80 million of us meron ng pamamahay. But of course, hindi naman kaya lahat ng gobyerno yan. But what are the, para lang malaman ng ating kababayan kung pasok sila sa tutulong, sa pwedeng pag-applyan.
Alright, as I stated earlier, itong department, so it's a combination of what used to be HLURD and the HUBCC. But maybe I must have forgotten to mention that we are also the department to which attached are several key shelter agencies. So, andyan po yung National Housing Authority, our primary housing builder, production arm. Andyan po yung Social Housing Finance Corporation in charge of, among others, delivering the Community Mortgage Program. And then, of course, we have the Pag-ibig Fund, which is the Provident Fund. And the National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation, which is itong ating secondary mortgage market. No? Ito po ang parang financial natin. No? So ngayon po, itong mga agencies po na to, iba-iba po ang tutok. May siguro po mamaya, we'll try to answer it one by one. No? So, tatanungin nyo, how do we address yung 80% at saan nakatutok, di ba?
Yes.
So, una, saan nakatutok? When you look at the National Spatial Strategy as contained within sa ating Philippine Development Plan, you will see that we have the metropolitan centers, we have regional centers, and we have sub-regional centers. And in terms of urban development, dapat yun ang tutok, yung mga malalaki. And how to connect yung malalaking pockets of population dun sa smaller ones. No? Okay. How do you make complementary the cities that are bigger to the cities that are smaller? How do you make them complement each other so that they benefit from each other? No? Ayaw po natin yung nangyayari na there is a significantly large city, doon lahat nagpupuntahan, nagpupush to beyond the carrying capacity. Lahat ng capital andon, lahat ng opportunities nandon to the detriment of other cities. So which is you know, nabanggit mo kanina, ma'am, yung Metro Manila, parang pati yung dito sa South, lumawak na. So, of course, there are ways to solve the problem that is Metro Manila, which is you try to intervene within Metro Manila, but while doing that, what we must do also is to intervene outside Metro Manila so that we are able to make attractive the cities surrounding it, so that somehow the cities surrounding Metro Manila will now become their own hubs and attract their own people, attract their own capital. Now, the challenge is, when they transfer, ready ba yung infrastructure? Diba? Ready ba ang pabahay? So, doon po pumapasok ang ating urban development, doon po pumapasok ang ating land use planning. Saan ba natin sila itatayo? Baka mamaya, pag alis sa danger area sa Metro Manila, ang pagpupuntahan naman resettlement or relocation site, danger area din. Yun po. Very important. When we find site suitability, papasok safety of our communities. So yun po, medyo maganda pag-usapan. I'm excited about it. We here at the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, we know that a lot has to be done, but we are excited. We've also recruited young people and yung mga institutional knowledge namin, yung mga experts namin have remained. So we're excited. I'm seeing a good transfer of information, transfer of knowledge, exchange of ideas between our more seasoned and our younger staff.
Yeah, and that's pretty exciting for me, that actual planning, because like for example in New York, imagine how the subway and how the water system is still working when it was planned even before the 1600s, and it was being built at that time. But it's all because of the planning of, as you mentioned, na nakakatuwang marinig, it's because they foresaw the population, kung paano magiging modernized, and to think, nakakalesa pa sila at the time. You know what I mean? Talagang, I forget the movie. But anyway, so you mentioned that the place has to be attractive. Urbanization has to be considering a lot of things, such as work. Does that mean you're also coordinating with the business councils, with chambers, just so there will be work, or with processing zones and DOLE?
Yeah, of course, Ma'am Rachel. In fact, a while ago, you were asking me, ano ba yung mga aspects itong urban development? When you look at it, when you look at our urban agenda, when you look at the sector plan that we're trying to put together, meron itong mga areas na, kunwari, what are we gonna do with the urban shelter?
Yes.
So, urban shelter, pag-uusapan, palupa, pabahay. What are we going to do with urban economy? So, ayan, you partner with commerce. You partner with business people. But what are we going to do with urban infrastructure? So, again, ilalatag mo yung zoning mo at saka planning mo. What are we going to do with urban governance? See, even governance of cities. How do you make sure you have the necessary dashboards? How do you make sure that the city mayor knows what's going on? And he or she has enough data. He or she can monitor what's going on and make sound policies based on evidence. So yung mga aspects na yan, urban planning and design, how do you design? Kung kunwari, nabanggit mo kanina, Marikina, lumulubog, then maybe we should start redesigning the houses, or maybe we should start redesigning the drainages. Alam mo ma'am, when I was, yung binabanggit mo kanina, New York, Boston also has this issue because it has water, but may issue sila about the rising water.
Yes.
They still develop buildings by the water, but the buildings, the first several floors, first of all, nakalubog, and then the next several floors above ground, hindi bahayang parking yan or warehouse, ganyan lang. So you can see the urban planning design. So even the design of the structures are laid out. So sinasabi doon, if you are by the water, you can only put up a structure if the structure has nakalubog sa ilalim so that it can take in water, and then the first few floors hindi residential. So may mga ganon. Di ba?
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I never knew. I just thought, I never knew that that kind of thinking goes into building a structure. I just know.
We have a partnership right now with the UN Habitat. It's called Building Climate Resilient Urban Planning and Design.
Yeah, and speaking of resiliency, we've had Bill Luz as a guest of Philippine Resiliency Foundation. And he's very passionate about that. And, every time there's a guest, it opens my eyes all the more. So that is something that you take into consideration, resiliency also. In terms of materials, is that,
Yes.
do they have to present that to you as well? Kung ano yung gagawin
Yung materials, we have an interagency. It holds office at the National Housing Authority. The PHSUD is also a member. We accredit, it's called ITEC, Accreditation of Innovative Technology for Housing. So even materials, we test them, if they're good, if they're locally produced, if they're of good quality, if they're cheaper, if it makes the houses sturdier, we accredit them.
And maganda talaga siya. on the other hand, I saw also that Sec Del Rosario also signed the RTAP, is committed to anti-red tape. And pero medyo ang dami niyong masyadong trabaho. So paano ma-ensure na hindi siya mababacklog? Kasi sabi nga kanina dun sa bahay nihan, the serious backlog in housing have to be addressed. Pero parang mas dumami yata yung trabaho niya talaga, which is good kasi nakikita ko all the details that have to be looked into are addressed. But how?
Yung backlog, the number is shifting. We will have to review it kasi patapos na ulit yung term ni ng current administration, no?
Yes.
So we'll have to look if we've made a dent. The way I understand it, the numbers were doing very well, except that itong last year and this year, siguro it's not at the level that we wanted it to be. Diba? But you're saying, okay, napakalaki yung problema. Correct. Malaki po yung problema natin sa pabahay. Pero hindi po natin iaatang lahat yan sa Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development. The approach that we're taking is that we have our key shelter agencies, and this force will be multiplied by capacitating our local government units and even our NGOs and even our community partners. So yun po, hindi po natin to basta iisipin, DSUD or NHA or Pag-ibig or SHFC or NHNFC, no. It has to be us partnering with them, and that will be the force multiplier. Now, sabi ninyo rin yung backlog, malaki. Over the years, there's been a problem also with the budgets of the housing sector. We have traditionally received less than 1% of the budget. So, yun din, that's one challenge. That's one challenge. Kaya mahirap habulin yung backlog. But that doesn't mean that we're going to stop. You know, we can still be creative. And like I said, we are really looking into partnering with our stakeholders. Also, the private sector na po, we have to create a conducive environment so that they produce and help us increase our housing stock. And now, ito finally, it's gaining traction. Over the years, napansin ko po, mayroon po talagang aversion ang Pinoy sa rental housing.
Yeah.
Pero ngayon parang medyo nag-i-improve na. Di ba kanina, nabanggit mo, 80% of Filipinos want to own their homes. So meaning to say, there is a percentage of Filipinos who understand that maybe moving forward, rental housing is also something that can be part of the solution.
Yes, absolutely.
Diba, when you go abroad, ang dami dyan housing stock.
Yeah.
Rental.
Yeah, and they even have what you call it, parang co-op. Like for example, before there are co-op buildings na they're the ones assessing the prospective tenant. But yes, kasi like that would be good kasi maraming nagtatanong paano ba kami magkakabahay when in fact maraming nagtatanong sa amin na after NHA and 𝗧cie, when in fact kasi raw umuupa sila. But meron kayong programa na rental subsidy? How does that work?
No, we're still trying to finalize that. It's two-pronged, no? One is, how do we extend rental subsidy to those people who might be displaced because maybe of infrastructure, no? So, kunwari, habang naghihintay pa sila, mayroong konting lull yan while you develop the housing. So that's rental. But on the other hand, meron din kaming pinitignan na how to create rental housing stock. So now we're looking to partner with SUCs, with LGUs, with NGOs, so that we can finance their construction, their production of housing units that they will rent out. Sa tingin ko po, pagka naitayo natin yon, once we promote the production, the construction of rental housing units, etong subsidiya natin sa renta ay mas magiging makabuluhan. In other countries, they've done that, no? They put up windows so that you can construct or redesign your home so that it can accommodate renters.
Yeah, and That's even better for the LGU because that's additional revenue for them. And at the same time, providing a better life for their constituents. So it's win-win. Kasi yung iba naman, gusto lang nila talaga ng mas mabuting environment for the kids to grow up in.
Yeah. That's correct. That's correct. Kanina, I was watching the video. Merong isang local official who was saying, we really want people to stay within our locality. Tama po yun. People don't want to go away from their homes. Kung saan sila tinubuan na ng tahid, that's where they want to grow. So, yun po, we're also looking into how do we increase this. Teka lang, babalikan ko lang, Ma'am Rachele, kasi nabanggit ninyo yung Quezon City, siksika.
Yeah.
Let's not go against yung density as it is, no, yung siksikan. Density per se is not a problem. Density, if not managed, becomes a problem. Di ba?
Yes, agree.
So, may urban growth ka, pero ready naman yung infrastructure, ready yung urban economy, may trabaho, ready yung urban shelter mo. Wala akong problema ang density. Ang may problema, if it's dense, but the infrastructure is not ready, or maybe the economy is not ready, yun ang problema. So, I just wanted to go back to it.
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up because we do not want the citizens or the constituents to live where they are. Kasi nangyayari yan sa state. Like for example, if their economy, biglang umalis si Toyota, where they have a factory where they assemble, or biglang nalulugi si Ford or si Chevrolet, nawawalan ng trabaho, umaalis mo yung mga tao, nawawalan ng gagawa doon. So, we don't want that to happen to us either. And we're just happy that there's actually urban planning because that means uunlad din tayo, katulad nila. So, one of the last questions, kasi nagiging masyadong interesting, lumalampas ako sa oras when I promised na 40 minutes lang. Sabi kasi ni Secretary Del Rosario na the scammers have to be, and that's true, merong iba nagbibenta pa ng parks, ng mga lote sa park, or yung mga recreational public areas, nabibenta pa. So, paano nyo nalalaman kung saan may scammers? Paano nyo mahuhuli yung mga nagbibenta ng hindi dapat ibenta? Are you also in touch with, say, the LRA to see the titling?
Ganito po. Meron tayong programa, we are fighting together with other agencies itong mga scammers. No po? And the constant reminder, nandun po sa ating website at DHSCD, yung dream, no? So ano po yung dream? Sabi natin, before you buy anything, dream.
Yeah.
Ano yung D? Nabasa niyo ba, Ma'am Rachele?
Yeah. Nakita ko, there's an infographic for that. Yeah.
Demand for a certificate of registration, demand for a license to sell. Ibig sabihin, yung kung project na yan, if it has a certificate of registration, if it has a license to sell, naka-lehitimong programa po yan na dumaan sa proseso ng aming tanggapan. That gives you a letter of support. Read, basahin ninyo kung ano ba yung laman ng certificate of registration, license to sell, yung mga kontrata, no? Engage. Sino engage mo? Ay, naku. Engage only those who are registered brokers, registered salespersons. And then ask questions. Do your due diligence. And then M, move. Check the place. No, kasi po, napansin po natin, madami pong scammers. Tapos sa online, with very enticing, sounds too good to be true offers. So, ang aming daan po, sana po, bago po tayo mapunto sa problema, sundin po natin yung dream para po hindi masayang ang ating pangarap na magkaroon ng sariling bahay. So, dream, let's demand, let's read, let's engage only registered people, ask questions, and move.
Okay. And one of the two closing questions, saan pa ba yung mga may expect nating housing programs? How does this work when you when you signed a MOA, say with this Tagdan city, and you're very thankful, and we'll be talking to them also with your help. Saan-saan pa ba yung ibang may expect so our kababayans will know kung saan sila pwede humingi ng tulong?
Ganito, una, gusto ko sana liwanagin, madaming programa ang National Housing Authority, pati po yung mga tinamaan ng mga nasalanta rin ng bagyo, yung mga nasira ang bahay sa paglindol, madami po silang programa. You should also check their websites. For those who are formally employed, for those who are members of the Pag-ibig Fund, ang dami rin pong programa ng Pag-ibig Fund. In fact, hindi lang po sila basta pumapasok doon lang sa loans for individual loan, retail loans. Madami po silang programa. Pwede po kayo, you band together as a group of people, you procure one of their properties and they will give you good discounts. No? Madami po silang programa. I would suggest our kababayans, silipin din po yun. And then also, if you are here and you're part of a community and you want to acquire the property, there is the Social Housing Finance Corporation. It's a finance corporation via the CFP. It will buy the property for you, and on the other hand, you will pay installments. So, madami po programa. Ngayon po, in relation to the Department of Human Settlements, we also have the Balanced Housing Development. Nabanggit din po yan kanina sa video ni Mayor Joy Belmonte. What is the Balanced Housing Development Program? Balanced Housing Development, ito pong compliance kung tawagin, is by virtue of law, subdivision developers and condominium developers are required to set aside 15 and 5% respectively of project cost for socialized housing. Ito po ngayon, ma'am, yung nakikita ninyo na pumupunta po si Secretary in partnership with certain LGUs, they access the fund. How do you access the fund? First, you have to have a comprehensive land use plan. Second, you have to have a local shelter plan. And then you have to submit the proposal. And then we assess it here. If we think it's a good project, we'll finance land development. Now, to expand that, lately, baka po na-declare kayo within the last 2 years ng state of calamity by competent authority, you can also submit a proposal, not just for land development, but also for land acquisition. Para po alam namin na sa lanta kayo, tutulungan namin ng lokal na pamahalaan na bumili ng lupa kung saan po tayo ang titirik po ng ating bagong pabahay. So yan po yung ating balanced housing.
Balanced housing with the LGUs yan. And that's a very enlightening.
Other proponents.
Oh, yung other proponents, good thing you mentioned that because sabi ni Secretary Del Rosario also, and since we have you and you're the Assistant Secretary, ano yung mga nagpa-partner kayo with the housing organizations? So, what are housing organizations? Para lang, it shows, baka mamaya it paves the way for our kababayans na doon pala pwedeng makakatok.
Meron tayo yung PREBA, yung Chamber of Real Estate yan, no? And then we have NREA, yung real estate practitioners lahat. And then we have the Organization of Socialized Housing Developers of the Philippines, OSHA, and then yung Subdivision and Housing Developers Association of 𝗧𝗃𝗲𝗃. Pero yung isang organization of mga developers of subdivision, developers of condos. So, we partner with them so that every so often we discuss policy with them. You know, how do we make sure that their businesses remain viable while at the same time producing a good number of housing that is livable, adequate, affordable for the people?
Okay.
That's the idea, ma'am. The idea is that we move forward as a nation so that people can afford to buy from the private sector. That's the ideal scenario. Let's not think that the ideal scenario is for government to have as many programs as possible. Diba po? That's the safeguard. Safeguard. Yun yung nilalagay natin yan because we don't want anyone to fall into poverty. But the ideal scenario is for us to be able to afford our own homes. And that is a constant discussion with our private sector partners to ensure that they remain engaged, but at the same time, it's not just for profit, it is for nation building.
Yes, and that's a wonderful closing for nation building. So with that, thank you very much and we'll still be in touch para makausap natin yung ibang mga localities because we've also had LGA, Local Government Academy, and you know what you say is something they said also that they're, and maybe you're working, are you working with LGA, Local Government Academy, in terms of providing the training? They have the webinars for the LGU.
Na DILG in general, OCD, DNR, lahat po yan. Kasi po ma'am, pagka pinag-usapan kaya malawak human settlements
Right, that's true.
Parang kabuuan.
Yeah. So, thank you very much because that is such a revelation na talaga namang may nangyayari, ang daming ang trabaho Parang, if you actually think about it, ang daming ginagawa. And yet we are just not aware. And what I keep saying is, while we were all in lockdown, this particular highway, what do you call it, a skyway, connecting the south, from the south to north, that made it 40 minutes to come from the last toll gate, southern toll gate, down to Bulacan, has happened. When finally na GCQ tayo, voila, meron ng daan. And in the same manner, maya-maya, meron na tayong different urbanized places, even in the rural areas. And with that, thank you very much kasi napakita talaga na merong planning. Kasi I'm sure nakikita nyo sa Facebook, all the ranting, all the venting, na ano ba yan, hindi nagpaplano. And yet, here we are, there's proof that there's planning going on. And thank you.
Kami po ma'am, wala pong problema ang ranting. We try to still get good feedback from it. Kasi minsan yung rant talagang very negative lang. Pero minsan, if you look closely, meron pa rin po tayong mapupulot and that's what we focus on.
Yes, and
it will improve our services.
Yeah, because feedback is the breakfast of champions, as I always believe. Thank you very much, and we will be still in touch. Have a good weekend. And belated happy birthday again for people. Ganyan ka committed ang ating mga public servants. You're not the first one whom we've interviewed. Two lady mayors who are working on their birthday. And si Sir din ho, ay namimigay siya ng health protocol kits on his birthday to commemorate the celebration of his birthday. Thank you very much, and for even going to Quezon City on a Saturday to be able to inform our kababayans through this public service.
Ma'am, huwag po kayong magsasawa na gawing guest ang aming tanggapan. We also have, pati yung mga bureaus namin, nako, very interesting people, imbitahin nyo rin po.
Yes, we will talaga, and I'll take you up on that.
Ang daming mga gusto, ang daming ginagawa at ang daming mga bagong gustong gawin. And we really feel like the department now being a full-fledged department, we're in a position to really help bring housing and urban development, not just parang a basic na parang ito kailangan natin ibigay sa kababayan, but to make it a force for nation.
And the good thing about it is that you're informing people, because then they'll know that things are happening. They'll have that sense of assurance also. So thank you very much for your commitment. Kasi isang dekada ka rin pala sa 𝗧cie pa lang, sa 𝗧cie. So so thank you very much for the commitment, for continuing your work over here. Now that we have the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development. Have a good weekend, and really appreciate. And thank you, Luigi. Thank you to Luigi, your team member, and kay Miss Miriam, the YN, and kay Mike, who are also there alongside. Okay, and of course to our very own Miguel, thank you very much. With that, we'd like to close. And we hope again that's an assurance. We don't see it in the news, but information is power. So it's very nice that he shared his expertise beyond what we hear, and I hope everybody found it interesting about urban development. Have a good weekend, everybody, and stay safe, GCQ, but please still wear your mask and your face shield. Kanina
Thank
ko
you.
naka-face shield siya. Bye!
Mag-fish kit ka ulit ako.
Okay, bye. So those who didn't catch the full interview of ASEC Ave Tolentino, we are not only on YouTube for our kababayans where it is available, we are on Spotify, Amazon Fire TV, Amazon Echo, and Alexa devices. And of course, there's a V81 radio app on your Android and iOS devices. So walang kawala si ASEC. Okay, have a good day, have a good weekend, everybody. Stay safe. Thanks, Miguel. Bye. Thanks, ASEC.
Ano na nga ba ang nangyayari sa Pinas? May pagbabago ba? Umuunlad ba tayo? Kausapin natin ang iba't ibang namumuno sa mga lokal na pamahalaan at national agencies na sumusuporta sa mga proyekto para sa kaunlaran. Liputin natin ang iba't ibang lugar sa Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao para malaman ang mga pagbabago at mga bagong destinasyon. Kilalanin kung sino-sino ang mga nasa LGU. Ano ba ang impact ng LGU sa araw-araw nating pamumuhay? Learn more about your city dito sa KPI, Kaunlaran at Pagbabago para sa inyo. Samahan si Rachele Bonus tuwing Sabado, 1:00 ng hapon, Philippine Time. KPI, Kaunlaran at Pagbabago para sa inyo. Dito lang yan para sa inyo sa V81 Radio Worldwide. Naghahatid saya sa mga Pinoy, mga kanta at programang Tatak Pinoy. Napapanood at napapakinggan kahit saan ka man. Streaming worldwide. This is V81 Radio.
Malayo ka man sa iyong pamilya, dito ay hindi ka nag-iisa. Tiyak ito'y iyong hahanap-hanapin, dahil ito ang nagpapasaya sa atin.